The days after the duel passed in uneasy silence. Commander Lyra Vey could not stop thinking about the human fighter who had defeated her, Kyle. His name echoed in her mind like a quiet challenge. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the way he moved, fast, calm, focused. There was no arrogance in him, no cruelty, only purpose. Lyra had never respected an enemy before. But Kale was not just an enemy. He was something else. A reminder that humans, once dismissed as primitive, held a power that could not be measured by technology or rank. She stood on the command balcony of the Zarathis base, staring at the sky. The war between the alien coalition and the human resistance had paused, both sides taking time to recover. But deep in her mind, Lyra sensed something darker approaching. "Zorath," she said, turning to her assistant. "Any new reports from the outer sectors?" Zorath's antennae trembled as he checked the datapad. "Yes, Commander. There are strange readings near the Kordath Nebula. Entire fleets have gone silent. No signals, no survivors," Lyra frowned. "Pirates?" "No, Commander," Zorath said quietly. "It's something worse. The readings show energy patterns not matching any known technology. Whatever it is consuming everything in its path. Ships, stations, even planets." Lyra's eyes widened slightly. She had fought many battles, but this sounded like no ordinary threat. "Send a warning to the Council, and not to the humans as well. If this thing spreads, none of us will survive." Zorath blinked. "To the humans, Commander? They are still our enemies." Lyra's gaze was firm. "Not today. If this unknown force is real, the humans are our only hope. They think differently. They fight differently. If we do not stand together, we will fall together." Far across the canyon in a hidden human outpost, Kale studied the same reports. His small team of survivors looked to him for guidance. The holographic display in front of him showed dark clouds spreading through the stars, fleets vanishing one by one. "This isn't a natural force," said Lieutenant Mara, one of Kale's closest allies. "Something's moving through the sectors. It destroys everything, even the strongest shields." Kyle stared at the display for a long time before replying. "It's coming here next." The others fell silent. Then a new signal appeared, a message from Commander Lyra Vey of Zarathis. Her voice came through the static, calm but urgent. "Human Commander Kale, this is not a trap. A new enemy is approaching. It does not care who we are. We must meet. We must plan." Kyle raised an eyebrow. "She wants to work together?" Mara frowned. "After all the battles we fought, you think we can trust her?" Kale nodded slowly. "Trust? No, but survival doesn't ask for trust. It asks for cooperation." The meeting took place 2 days later on neutral ground, an abandoned research station orbiting a dead moon. The structure was quiet, its halls filled with dust and silence. Lyra arrived first, surrounded by a small escort of guards. Kale followed, accompanied only by Mara. When they stood face to face again, the tension in the room was sharp but not hostile. Lyra looked at him with a mix of respect and determination. "You came," she said simply. Kale nodded. "You sent a warning." "I don't ignore warnings." Lyra gestured toward the holographic map that hovered above the table. "The unknown force has already destroyed 5 systems. We call it the Vornic Swarm, an ancient weapon from a lost civilization recently awakened. It feeds on energy and life alike. My fleet alone cannot stop it." Kale studied the map, his eyes narrowing. "So you need human help?" Lyra did not deny it. "Yes, and you need ours. Your ships are fast, your tactics unpredictable. But the swarm cannot be defeated by speed alone. It must be outsmarted and outpowered. Together we might stand a chance." Kyle crossed his arms. "You once laughed at humans, Commander. Do you really believe that now?" Lyra's voice softened slightly. "I laughed at myths, but you are no myth." Kale gave a small, almost approving smile. "Then we fight together." The next few days were filled with planning. Alien engineers worked side by side with human mechanics, their languages awkward but their purpose clear. Kale shared human combat strategies focusing on precision and unpredictability. Lyra provided advanced weaponry and shield systems, showing humans how to adapt them to smaller ships. Despite differences, respect grew between the two sides. For the first time, humans and aliens worked as equals, united by survival. One night, Lyra stood outside the base, watching human pilots train. Their movements were rough but efficient, filled with determination. Kyle joined her quietly, hands clasped behind his back. "You command with pride," he said. "But pride can be heavy to carry." Lyra glanced at him. "And you command with instinct. But instinct can be dangerous without discipline." Kyle smiled faintly. "Maybe that's why we balance each other." For a moment they stood in silence watching the stars. Neither spoke, but an understanding passed between them, not of friendship, but of shared purpose. 3 days later, the swarm arrived. It appeared in the sky like a dark storm, a mass of metallic creatures that shimmered like liquid metal. They moved as one, a living wave that consumed everything in their path. Lyra's voice rang out across the command channel. "All units prepare for battle." Defensive positions now. Human and alien ships launched together, forming a formation unlike any seen before. Human agility combined with alien strength. Kale led the first squadron, weaving between the swarm's chaotic movements. His ship darted like lightning, drawing enemy fire away from the larger vessels. Lyra commanded from the main cruiser, coordinating defense lines and weapon strikes. The battle that followed was fierce. The swarm was endless, adapting rapidly to attacks. Every time they destroyed one wave, another emerged. But humans and aliens fought side by side, learning from each other in real time. Lyra's voice cut through the noise. "Kale, they're breaching the western flank." "On it," Kale replied. He led a dive through the chaos, drawing the swarm's attention and luring them into the alien cannon's firing range. A massive explosion followed, scattering the attackers. "Nice shot," Lyra said with a faint smile through the comm. Kyle chuckled. "You're welcome, Commander." Despite the destruction around them, something remarkable happened. Both sides began to trust one another. Alien gunners covered human ships while human pilots rescued alien crews trapped in debris. The coordination was not perfect, but it was enough. Hours passed before the battle began to turn. The combined strategy worked, using alien shields to focus enemy energy, while humans used precision strikes to destroy the swarm's control cores. Finally, the last wave fell silent. The swarm's main structure exploded in a burst of white light, fading into dust. Cheers erupted across both fleets. The impossible had been done. Lyra leaned back in her chair, exhausted but relieved. "We did it," she said softly. Kale's voice came through the comms. "No, Commander. We did it. Together." Later that night, on the surface of the moon, Lyra met Kale near the ruins of the old station. The battle was over, but the silence that followed felt peaceful. "You saved many lives today," she said quietly. "So did you," Kale replied. Lyra looked up at the stars. Perhaps myths exist for a reason, to remind us that even the impossible can happen. Kale smiled. "And sometimes, Commander, myths are just waiting to be proven real." Lyra turned to face him. "If the galaxy ever doubts humans again, I will tell them what I saw. A fighter who stood against fear itself." Kale gave a short nod. "And I'll tell them not all legends are born from humans. Some are made with allies." They stood there for a long while, two warriors from different worlds, bound by one truth: courage knows no species. The alliance had been formed not from friendship, but from respect, and respect, Lyra realized, was far stronger than pride. As the stars shone above, she allowed herself a small smile. She had once laughed at the myth of human fighters. Now she had fought beside one, and the myth had saved them all. But somewhere beyond the stars, shadows moved again. The galaxy was far from peaceful, and both Lyra and Kale knew it. Their fight was not over, and it had only just begun. The war between humans and the Zalari had stopped for a short time. Both sides were tired and broken. Planets burned quietly in the darkness of space, and fleets floated like ghosts near dead moons. Commander Lyra Vey stood on the bridge of her ship, the Valkyrian, staring at the stars with a heavy heart. She had once laughed at the idea of human warriors. She had believed they were weak, untrained, and primitive. But now, after seeing Kyle fight, after losing to him in combat, her thoughts were not the same. That single human had changed everything she believed. Lyra had seen something in his eyes. Not just anger or courage, but a kind of quiet strength that never broke. It made her wonder if all humans had that same fire deep inside. Zorath, her second in command, interrupted her thoughts. "Commander, there are strange reports from the outer sectors," he said. His voice was tight with unease. Lyra turned to him. What kind of reports? Whole patrol fleets have gone missing. No signals, no distress calls. The last transmission we received mentioned shadows in space, Lyra frowned. Pirates? Zorath shook his head. No, Commander. Something else. Something we cannot identify. Before Lyra could reply, the holographic screen in front of them lit up. A signal was coming through, faint, broken, and human. Is anyone receiving this? This is Commander Kale of the Human Resistance. We've encountered something in Sector 9. It's not Silari. The message ended suddenly. Lyra felt a chill. The humans were facing the same unknown threat. Send a response, she ordered quickly. Tell them we need to meet. If this thing can destroy fleets, then both our species are in danger. Zorath hesitated. Commander, the Council will not approve contact with humans. Lyra looked out the window, her eyes hard. Then the Council can watch the galaxy burn. Send the message. 2 days later, on a quiet moon far from both human and Zilari space, a small meeting was arranged. The air was cold and thin, the surface covered in gray dust. Lyra arrived first, accompanied by only 2 guards. She wore no heavy armor this time, only her uniform and the faint symbol of her command. Moments later, a small shuttle landed nearby. Kale stepped out, followed by a single human soldier. His face was calm but cautious. The 2 commanders faced each other under the pale light of the moon. You received my message, Lyra said. Kyle nodded. And you answered mine. There was a brief silence before she spoke again. This new enemy. You've seen it. Kyle activated a small holographic device showing the image of a destroyed human ship. Its hull torn apart, its energy completely drained. We call it the Devourer, Kyle said. It doesn't use normal weapons. It eats energy. Power cores, life support, even the heat from living beings. Lyra studied the image carefully. The ship looked as if it had melted into nothing. We've lost fleets the same way, she admitted. If it continues spreading, it will reach both our worlds soon. Kale looked at her. Then we'll have to fight it together. Lyra hesitated. Humans and Zilari. Working together? Our people barely understand each other. Kale crossed his arms. Understanding isn't needed right now. Survival is. Lyra gave a small, thoughtful nod. You're right. We fight together. The next few days were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Humans and Zilari shared a base on the moon, working side by side to build weapons and study the Devourer's energy pattern. The humans were rough, but creative. They used old parts and turned them into new weapons that the Zilari engineers had never imagined. The Zilari, on the other hand, shared their advanced shields and plasma systems, showing the humans how to strengthen their ships. Despite their differences, a sense of teamwork began to grow. One night, Lyra walked into the hangar and saw Kale working on a damaged fighter. His hands were covered in oil and his eyes were tired but focused. You fix your own ships? She asked, curious. Kale didn't look up. When you grow up fighting without help, you learn to fix what you break. Lyra smiled slightly. Our pilots rely on repair drones. Maybe that's why we forgot how to survive without them. Kyle finally looked at her. Machines don't win wars, Commander. People do. Lyra thought about that for a long time. She began to understand why humans had survived against impossible odds. When the Devourer finally came, there was no warning. The sky above the moon darkened, and a strange ripple passed through space like a silent wave. Ships floating nearby lost power one by one. Lights dimmed. Engines stopped. Enemy contact, shouted Zorath over the comm. It's here! Lyra and Kale ran to the command room. On the screen, a vast shadow moved across the stars. Not one ship, but millions of tiny ones connected like a single living thing. Kyle's eyes narrowed. It's feeding already. Lyra turned to her crew. Activate magnetic shields. Power up all energy cores manually. Manual power won't last long, Kale warned. Once it gets close, it drains everything, Lyra thought quickly. Then we fight without energy. Kale stared at her. Without power? Yes, Lyra said, determination in her voice. We will use what the humans call instinct. Kale's lips curved into a smile. Now you're starting to sound human. The battle that followed was like none before. Ships without active engines were launched using gravity slings. Weapons were fired manually, guided by human reflexes instead of targeting systems. Kale led a group of small fighters that darted between the Devourer's waves. Their movements were unpredictable, confusing the enemy. Lyra's fleet used old magnetic fields to trap parts of the swarm, holding them still long enough for Kale's ships to strike. Communication between humans and Zalari was short and fast. Left wing closing. Shield breaking. Focus fire here. They didn't need to speak the same language to understand each other anymore. Kyle's ship spun through the darkness, narrowly avoiding one of the Devourer's energy beams. He locked onto its core and fired a plasma burst. The creature exploded in a flash of blue light. Nice shot, Lyra's voice came through the comm. Kale replied with a grin. Not bad for a myth, right? Lyra almost laughed. Not bad at all. The fight raged for hours. For every part of the Devourer destroyed, 2 more appeared. But slowly, using both human cleverness and Zalari precision, the tide began to turn. Lyra's command ship was hit by debris, alarms flashing everywhere. Kale saw it from above. Without hesitation, he flew his fighter close and used his magnetic cable to pull her ship out of the debris field. "Why did you do that?" she asked when the danger passed. Kyle answered simply, "Because that's what humans do. We don't leave people behind." Lyra's voice softened. "Then maybe humans aren't as different from us as I thought." At last, Lyra found the Devourer's main core. It was hidden inside a massive black structure floating near a dying star. "All ships," she commanded, "focus on that core." Kyle's voice followed. "If we take it down, the rest will fall." Together, they led the final strike. Human fighters dove through the swarm, clearing the way while Zalari cruisers fired everything they had. The core began to crack, bright energy spilling out like lightning. "Now!" Kale shouted. Lyra pressed the command. A final pulse from the alien cannon hit the core directly. The Devourer screamed silently as its entire body disintegrated into dust. The darkness faded. The stars returned. The battle was over. Afterward, the survivors gathered on the moon again. The base was damaged, but it still stood. Humans and Zalari worked side by side, helping the wounded and rebuilding what they could. Lyra walked to the edge of the landing field, where Kale was watching the stars. "It's over," she said quietly. Kale nodded. "For now. But the galaxy is full of shadows. There will always be another fight." Lyra looked at him. "When that day comes, will humans stand with us again?" Kale smiled faintly. "If you call, Commander, we'll answer." Lyra extended her hand slowly. "Then let's make sure the myth stays alive." Kale shook her hand firmly. The myth just became real. They stood together under the starlight, 2 warriors from different worlds, no longer enemies but survivors of the same war. Lyra had once laughed at the myth of human fighters. Now she knew the truth. Humans were not myths. They were the reason legends existed. And somewhere deep inside, she hoped this was only the beginning of something greater. Not a war, but an alliance that could change the stars forever. Peace did not last long. Only weeks after the Devourer was destroyed, quiet signals began to flicker across the edges of known space. Strange transmissions, filled with distorted voices and symbols no one could translate, reached both human and Zalari sensors. Some believed it was only leftover noise from the battle, but Commander Lyra Vey knew better. She stood on the observation deck of her ship, the Valkyrian, watching the drifting dust of old stars. The wounds of the last war still marked every planet, every fleet. Yet now there was something else in the air, a sense of change. Her communicator beeped softly. It was Kyle. "Commander," his calm voice came through. "You might want to see this." Lyra turned toward the main screen. Kale appeared, standing inside the human research vessel Ardent. Behind him, engineers worked quickly, adjusting long panels covered in glowing blue lines. "What is it?" she asked. "We've picked up a repeating pattern in deep space," Kale explained. "It's a message. And it's not human, not Zalari, not even Devourer." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "Can you decode it?" Kale nodded slowly. "Part of it. It says," he paused, letting the static clear, "Made the architects return." For a long moment, Lyra said nothing. Then she whispered, "The architects, the ones who built the Devourer." Kale gave a single nod. "Exactly." The return of the architects. Over the next few days, fear spread across both species. The architects were a name found only in old legends, a race of ancient builders who once shaped galaxies. Some said they had vanished after creating weapons too powerful to control. Others said they had gone to sleep, waiting for the right time to awaken. Now that time had come. Lyra called a meeting between human and Zalari leaders. The great hall of the Joint Command Base was filled with tension. "They call themselves the true rulers of creation," said Zorath, reading the translated message. "They claim the Devourer was only their tool. A test." Murmurs filled the room. Kyle spoke calmly. "Then we passed their test. But that probably means they're coming to see who stopped their weapon." Lyra looked around the table. "We must prepare for the worst. If the architects are real, they will not talk. They will conquer." One Zalari general frowned. "Our fleets are weak, our world still rebuilding. We cannot fight them." Kyle's voice was steady. "We don't need to fight them with strength. We fight with what they don't understand, unity." Lyra nodded. "Humans and Zalari together. One command, one defense." The room fell silent for a moment. Then the leaders, one by one, agreed. For the first time in history, humans and Zalari began building a united fleet. The Forge of Allies work began across every world. Human engineers built fast, flexible ships. Zalari scientists provided new plasma cores that could blend energy with organic material. They named their joint creation the Horizon Fleet. Lyra oversaw coordination, managing hundreds of mixed teams. She learned human words and jokes, and the humans learned to respect the precision of Zalari planning. Kale moved between the teams, teaching young pilots how to think like fighters instead of machines. One night, while watching the new ships take shape, Lyra said quietly, "When this is over, the galaxy will remember this moment." Kale looked at her. "If we survive, they'll remember you, Commander." She shook her head. "No, they'll remember us, the day we stopped being enemies." Kyle smiled faintly. "Then let's make sure we give them a story worth remembering." The architects' arrival began with light, a storm of golden energy that filled half the sky. The Horizon Fleet turned its sensors toward the source, and what they saw froze every heart. Through the glowing clouds came 3 enormous structures, each larger than a moon. They were not ships in the usual sense. They were living machines, their surfaces shifting like metal skin. A voice echoed through every frequency, calm and ancient. "We are the architects. You have destroyed our creation. Now you will prove your worth." Kyle stood beside Lyra on the command bridge. "They're not attacking yet," he said. Lyra clenched her fists. "They're waiting for us to move first." Kyle turned to her. "Then we show them what humans and Zalari can do together." The last battle begins. The Horizon Fleet formed in perfect silence. Human ships flew at the front, small, fast, unpredictable. Zalari warships followed behind, their cannons charged and ready. Lyra gave the first command. "Forward wings, begin evasive pattern delta. Draw them in." Kale's fighter led the attack. He dove between beams of golden energy, his ship glowing as it deflected smaller strikes. The architect's drones, smooth silver shapes, filled the sky like a living storm. "Don't fight the drones directly," Kale shouted through the comm. "They're linked. Take out the transmitters." Lyra followed his strategy instantly. "All units target the central relay towers." The first tower exploded, cutting the swarm's coordination. The drones froze for a moment, just enough for Kale's team to strike again. But the architects adapted fast. Energy waves hit the human ships, breaking several in seconds. Lyra's voice rose over the channel. "Fall back! Regroup!" Kale's ship shook as a beam grazed its wing. Smoke filled his cabin, but he stayed focused. "Commander, I have an idea." "Go on," Lyra said. "The architect's energy flows through those large orbs on their sides. If we can overload one, it might cause a chain reaction." Lyra quickly calculated. "That's suicide, Kyle," he smiled faintly. "Only if it fails." Kale's plan. With Lyra's reluctant approval, Kale led a small group of volunteers toward the largest architect structure. Their mission was simple: deliver a pulse bomb directly into its energy core. Lyra watched from the Valkyrian, heart heavy. "All ships cover Kale's team. No one gets through without them." As Kale approached the core, hundreds of drones blocked his path. He weaved between them, moving faster than sensors could track. His ship shook under fire, but he pressed on. "Almost there," he said through the comm, sweat on his forehead. "Kyle," Lyra's voice came through, quiet but steady. "You don't have to do this alone," he smiled. "I'm not alone. You're all with me." Then with one final push, he fired the bomb directly into the core. A blinding light spread across the sky. The architect's structure began to collapse inward, pulling its own energy into itself. The other two tried to retreat, but the explosion's force was too great. One by one, the great ships shattered, The blast faded, leaving silence. The stars returned. After the fire, the battle was won, but Kyle's ship did not return. His signal vanished when the core exploded. Lyra searched for hours, refusing to give up. Finally, a faint beacon blinked on the edge of the debris field. "Rescue team, follow that signal," she ordered. When they found him, Kale's ship was barely holding together. He was alive, though weak and exhausted. As the medics carried him out, Lyra stood beside him. "You did it," she said softly. Kyle opened his eyes. "No, Commander. We did it." Lyra smiled, a rare warmth in her usually sharp expression. "You humans never stop surprising me." Kale laughed weakly. "And you Zalari never stop learning." A new dawn weeks later, peace returned to the galaxy. The Horizon Fleet was now the foundation of a new alliance, the Union of Worlds, led by both humans and Zalari. Lyra was appointed as Supreme Commander of the Union Fleet, but she often said the real leader was someone else. In the great hall of the capital station, a statue stood tall, a human pilot holding a broken blade, symbolizing the myth that became real. During the ceremony, Lyra gave a speech to both species. Once, "I laughed at the myth of human fighters," she said, her voice echoing through the hall. "I thought courage was just a story told to inspire children. But then I met one, a man who showed me that true strength is not in armor or weapons. It is in the heart." She looked toward Kale, now recovered, standing quietly among the crowd. "He reminded us that unity is not built by victory, but by respect. And that is how we won." The audience, human and Zalari alike, rose in applause. Kyle nodded slightly, humble as always. "The myth," he said quietly to himself, "was never about one fighter. It was about what people can do when they stand together." Epilogue. The Blade in the Stars many years later. Travelers across the galaxy told stories of that war, of the human who faced the architects and lived, and of the Zalari commander who changed the meaning of pride. Some said Kale still flew among the stars, guarding the edges of the galaxy. Others said the two commanders continued to lead quietly, ensuring peace remained strong, whatever the truth. One thing never changed. Whenever someone laughed at the myth of human fighters, they were reminded of the day the myth drew his blade and saved the stars, and the legend lived on. Dr. Alara Venn adjusted the straps of her backpack as she stepped out of the transport pod onto the soft, lavender-hued soil of Alora. The twin suns hung low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the sprawling colony below. From this vantage point, Alara could see the elegant curves of the biodomes, the shimmering canals that provided water to the city, and the quiet hum of the automated transport systems moving between buildings. She had traveled across the galaxy to study humanity in this era, a time when war seemed like a distant memory, a thing of the past. For decades, humans had built a reputation for being peaceful, cooperative, and wise. Many other species admired them for it. Ilara herself had spent years reading reports, analyzing records, and preparing for this trip. She had expected to find a culture that was calm, orderly, and thoughtful. What she did not expect was how deeply this peace had seeped into every corner of human life. Walking down the cobblestone path that led into the heart of the city, she observed people going about their daily routines. Children laughed and chased small robotic pets that scurried along the paths. Elderly citizens tended gardens filled with bioluminescent flowers that glowed softly in the twilight. Workers moved efficiently through their tasks, aided by machines, yet they carried themselves with a sense of dignity and pride. There was no sense of fear, no whispers of conflict, only the quiet rhythm of daily life. Alara paused to take a photograph, adjusting her lens to capture the intricate architecture of the central dome. She had studied these structures in detail back on Earth, but seeing them in person was different. Every building was designed not only for function but for beauty. Humanity, she thought, had truly mastered the art of living peacefully. "Dr. Venn," a voice called from behind her. She turned to see Captain Rylan, the colony's liaison officer, hurrying toward her. He was tall, with dark hair streaked with silver, and his uniform was neat and precise, reflecting the colony's disciplined culture. "Ilara," he said, slightly out of breath, "the council is expecting you. They'd like a preliminary report before tonight's gala." Ilara smiled politely. "Of course. Lead the way." As they walked, Ryland spoke of the colony's achievements, advancements in sustainable energy, medical breakthroughs that had extended human lifespans, and education systems that encouraged creativity as much as knowledge. Every word seemed to reinforce the impression she already had. Humans had evolved beyond their old violent tendencies. "I must admit," Ilara said, "it's remarkable to see it all firsthand. I've studied reports for years, but nothing compares to being here." Rilan nodded. "That is what most visitors say. We value peace above all, and we hope to show that it is possible for humanity to thrive without war." They entered the council chamber, a spacious hall filled with natural light that streamed through transparent walls. The council members, a mix of men and women, greeted her warmly. There was a calm confidence in their demeanor, a sense of purpose without aggression. Ilara began her presentation, showing slides of human progress, the growth of colonies across multiple planets, and the peaceful interactions humans had with other species. As she spoke, Ilara noticed something strange. On the outskirts of the chamber, a small monitor flickered with a warning light. She frowned, but before she could ask, the council president, Leora Kest, waved her on. "Your observations are valuable, Dr. Venn," Leora said. "We are proud of what humanity has become. We hope your report will reflect that." Ilara nodded, but the flickering light in the monitor stayed in the back of her mind. She had learned to trust her instincts over the years, and something about that warning unsettled her. After the meeting, she walked through the city on her own, allowing herself a moment of quiet reflection. Children played near fountains that sparkled with iridescent water. Couples strolled hand in hand, and the scent of flowering plants filled the air. It was a scene of perfect serenity, yet somewhere deep inside her, Ilara felt a shadow of unease. Later that evening, she sat on a balcony overlooking the colony, reviewing her notes. She had been careful to record every detail, the efficiency of human systems, the kindness in people's interactions, and the lack of any military presence. Her notes painted a picture of a civilization that had truly grown beyond conflict. But then she remembered the flickering light in the council chamber, and she could not ignore it. Even in a world this peaceful, she knew that peace could be fragile. Civilizations often believed they were safe until the unexpected arrived. The next morning, Ilara decided to venture beyond the safe perimeter of the colony. She had permission to study the surrounding terrain, but her curiosity went further. There had been rumors of strange energy readings near the frontier, and though the council dismissed them as anomalies, Ilara felt compelled to investigate. She donned her field suit, checked her equipment, and stepped into the shuttle that would take her to the frontier. As the engines hummed and the shuttle lifted off, she looked down at the colony, feeling a sense of nostalgia even before the journey had begun. Humans had built something beautiful here, something that had inspired hope across the galaxy. She could only hope it was strong enough to withstand whatever lay ahead. The shuttle cut through the thin atmosphere, gliding toward the uncharted lands. The terrain changed rapidly. Smooth plains gave way to jagged cliffs, and the soft lavender soil turned to rocky ground streaked with metallic veins. Ilara's sensors picked up faint energy signals, subtle fluctuations that suggested something unusual was nearby. Hours passed, and the sun dipped lower, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple. Finally, she landed in a small clearing. Her scanners indicated a nearby source of unusual energy, concentrated in a cave system just a few kilometers away. Her heart raced with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Inside the cave, the energy readings became stronger, and then she saw it. A human figure, armored and armed, moving with precision and confidence. Ilara froze. This was impossible. Humans, she had been told, had abandoned war centuries ago. Yet here was proof to the contrary. A warrior trained for combat surviving in the wilderness alone. The figure turned, revealing a face marked by determination and experience. His eyes were sharp and his movements were deliberate. Ilara instinctively stepped back, unsure of what to say or do. "You're far from the colony," the man said, his voice steady but firm. "Not many come here alone." "Who are you?" "I'm Dr. Ilara Venn," she stammered. "I study human history, civilization, peace. I did not expect to find—" She hesitated, searching for words. "Someone like you," the man nodded slowly. "Name's Cale Thorne. And you're right. I'm not what most people expect. But the galaxy has eyes on humanity, and not all of them are friendly." Ilara's mind raced. Could it be possible that humanity had preserved warriors in secret, That behind the veneer of peace, humans were still prepared to defend themselves if necessary. The thought was both thrilling and unsettling. Kyle motioned for her to follow him deeper into the cave. As they walked, he spoke of the Viraxis, a species that had been observing humanity for decades, waiting for the right moment to strike. He explained that humans had chosen peace publicly, but secretly, small groups trained in defense and strategy, preparing for the possibility that their peaceful reputation might be challenged. Ilara listened, astonished. All her research, all her reports had shown only the calm surface. She had believed humanity had grown gentle. Now she realized there was more beneath the surface: strength, resilience, and a readiness that no one outside these secret circles had known. As night fell outside the cave, Ilara and Kale sat by a small controlled fire. The shadows danced on the walls, reflecting a truth she could no longer ignore. Humanity was peaceful, yes, but not helpless. There were warriors who could protect it if needed. And perhaps she thought that was the real lesson. Peace was not weakness. It was strength, carefully concealed, waiting for the moment it would be required. Ilara gazed into the flames, feeling a mixture of awe and unease. The galaxy believed humans had abandoned violence. And perhaps they had, on the surface. But the warrior before her proved that even in an age of peace, humanity's spirit was far from dormant. Something in the depths of her mind whispered a warning. The calm she had admired might not last forever. And when the storm came, humans would be ready, though the rest of the galaxy might not believe it until it was too late. Ilara understood that her journey had only begun. The peaceful world she thought she knew was just the beginning of a story far greater than she had imagined. The next morning, the twin suns of Aelora rose over the horizon, casting long golden rays across the cave entrance. Dr. Ilara Venn awoke to the quiet hum of the cave's natural airflow. The night had been restless. Her mind replayed every moment with Kale Thorne. She had expected a peaceful planet, a colony thriving in harmony, yet here she was, standing on the edge of a truth she could never have imagined. Kale was already up, checking his gear and inspecting the small energy devices he had brought into the cave. The sunlight reflected off the polished surface of his armor, revealing scratches and dents that spoke of countless battles she had only read about in history books. "You're up early," Ilara said, brushing the sleep from her hair. Kale looked at her with sharp eyes. "Morning is the best time for preparation. The day may bring challenges, and it's better to be ready." Ilara nodded slowly. She wanted to ask so many questions, but words felt inadequate. Instead, she studied him. How he moved, how he carried himself. Every motion was precise, calculated. Kale was not a soldier out of habit. He was a warrior born from necessity. "You have trained for war?" she asked finally, curiosity overcoming her caution. Kale's gaze remained steady. "Not for war that people celebrate. Not for glory or conquest. I trained for survival, for protection. There are threats in the galaxy that believe humans are weak because we are peaceful. They are wrong." Ilara shivered slightly, not from cold, but from the weight of his words. She had spent years teaching and researching, convinced that humanity had truly evolved beyond its violent past. And yet here was proof that the past was never fully erased. It had been preserved, hidden, waiting. "Why didn't anyone tell us?" she asked. "The colony, the council, none of this is in our history books. How could they hide something so important?" Kale looked away, his jaw tightening. "Because the galaxy rewards appearances. Humans wanted to show they were peaceful. They wanted trust. But if trust blinds you, you are vulnerable. That is why we train in secret." Ilara thought about the reports she had read, the glowing accolades humans received from other species. Diplomats praised humanity's wisdom. Scholars wrote about their ingenuity and restraint. And yet all of it was only part of the story. A mask that hid a deeper, more resilient truth. As they spoke, Kale led her further into the cave system. The walls shimmered with natural crystal formations, glowing faintly as if reflecting their quiet determination. He pointed to symbols carved into the stone, ancient markings she recognized from human history but had never seen used in this context. "These are warnings," Kyle explained. "Old but still relevant. They remind us what humans are capable of when threatened. Peace is not weakness, it is preparation." Ilara studied the symbols, fascinated. She realized that every generation of humans had passed down knowledge in subtle ways, leaving clues for those who were willing to see. So humanity has never really abandoned defense, she said. It was hidden, preserved, Kale nodded. Exactly. But preserving it is not enough. The galaxy is changing. There are species who see peace as opportunity, and they are watching. Ilara's mind raced. Could it be true? Could humans, who she had admired for their calmness and restraint, face a threat so great that they might need warriors like Kale? She wanted to hope that humanity would never need to fight again, but deep down she felt the warning in Kale's tone. This was real. Who are they? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The Viraxis, Kale said. A species unlike any we've faced before. They are intelligent, resourceful, and they see violence as a tool to achieve their goals. They have watched humanity for decades, waiting for signs of weakness. Ilara shivered again, imagining her peaceful colony caught unprepared. Why now? She asked. Kale paused, looking at her with a serious expression. Because peace has made humans predictable. We do not fight openly. We do not prepare publicly. To them it seems we are soft. But the truth is far stronger. They will come. And when they do, humans must be ready. For the first time, Ilara felt the weight of what she had always studied. History had not been erased, it had evolved. Humanity had chosen peace, yes, but it had also chosen to survive. And survival required more than diplomacy and kindness. It required courage, strategy, and strength. Kale motioned toward a narrow passage leading deeper into the mountains. I need to show you something. Something that will explain why I exist, why I train, and why humans cannot ignore the galaxy's threats. Curiosity and caution battled within Ilara, but she followed him. The passage opened into a cavern lit by soft glowing crystals, and at its center were weapons, training equipment, and holographic displays showing complex battle scenarios. She froze, taking in the sight. Humans designed this? She asked, disbelief in her voice. Yes, Kale said, but only a few know it exists. Only those who understand the risks. Here we learn, we practice, we prepare for the day we may need to defend everything we love. Peace does not mean we are defenseless. Ilara approached the displays, her fingers hovering over the controls. Holograms of starships, alien landscapes, and tactical maps shifted and rotated, showing detailed strategies for potential conflicts. She realized that the humans behind these plans had not only preserved knowledge, they had improved it, adapted it for a future that had not yet arrived. This is incredible, she whispered. I had no idea humans could be like this. Even in secret, Kale nodded. Most don't, that is why I am here now. To ensure that if the Viraxis decide to strike, humanity will not be caught off guard. Ilara felt a mix of fear and excitement. The world she had admired, the peaceful colony she had walked through just yesterday, was only one layer of reality. Beneath it lay strength, courage, and readiness that few outsiders ever witnessed. Will they attack soon? She asked, unable to hide the tremor in her voice. Kale's expression darkened. It's only a matter of time. The Viraxis study patience as much as we do. They will strike when they believe the moment is perfect for them. We cannot wait for signs. We must be ready before they arrive. Ilara realized the enormity of what she was witnessing. She had come to Elora to study peace, to document the evolution of humanity into a gentle, civilized species. Instead, she found a warrior and a secret defense network prepared for an invasion that could challenge the very survival of humans. Her mind swirled with questions. How many other warriors like Kale existed? How long had this secret been maintained? And, most importantly, how would she, a scholar, fit into a world on the brink of conflict? Kale seemed to read her thoughts. You are not helpless, he said. You understand strategy, history, and human behavior. You can help. Everyone can. Strength is not only in arms, it is in the mind. The courage to act, the will to protect. Humanity's power is in more than just its warriors. Ilara took a deep breath, feeling a strange mixture of awe and determination. Perhaps this was why she had been drawn to Elora. Not just to study humans, but to witness their awakening. Not just to document history, but to become part of it. Over the next hours, Kale showed her training exercises, tactical simulations, and defensive strategies. He spoke of past threats humans had survived, of battles that had never been recorded in public history, and of lessons learned from each encounter. Ilara absorbed everything, her mind racing with the realization that humanity's strength was not just in technology or diplomacy, but in the spirit that refused to yield even when peace seemed absolute. As night fell again, the stars emerging over the cave entrance, Ilara knew her perspective had changed forever. The humans she had admired for their calmness and reason were not weak. They were patient, observant, and prepared. And in the shadows of that preparation lay warriors like Kale, who could awaken the strength of humanity when the moment demanded it. Ilara realized that the galaxy had judged humans by what it saw on the surface. It believed them gentle, perhaps even soft. But the truth hidden in caves like this, in minds like Kale's, was far different. Humanity's peace was not the absence of strength. It was a shield, carefully maintained, waiting for the day it would be needed. And Ilara, the scholar who had thought she understood humans, now understood that she had only seen the beginning. The real story, the story of courage, preparation, and resilience, was just starting. She glanced at Kale, whose eyes reflected the quiet determination of someone who had trained for battles no one else dared imagine. "Show me everything," she said. "I want to understand. I want to help." Kale nodded. "Then your training begins. Humanity will need more than warriors when the storm comes. We will need every mind, every heart, and every willing hand. Peace alone will not protect us. We must be ready to prove what humanity is truly capable of." Ilara took a deep breath and stepped fully into the cavern, leaving the comforts of her previous understanding behind. For the first time she felt the weight of responsibility, not just as an observer, but as someone who might play a part in humanity's awakening. And as the stars shone brightly over Aelora, she understood one undeniable truth. The age of peace had not ended, but humanity's real power was just beginning to reveal itself.